Hello, and welcome to David Boles Live. This is now week number 2 in this fascinating experiment of online live streaming the world over, coming to you live from the East Coast of the United States of America. Well, it was an interesting weekend. I washed my merch shirt. This is the hoodie with the DB David Boles logo. Maybe every day we'll wear merch, maybe not. And as you can see, we have a little bit of a change in how this stream looks. Did a lot of tweaking over the weekend, a lot of learning. One thing I learned is we have a Zoom interview issue running Streamlabs OBS. Slobs is our streaming software. On a Mac, trying to get the audio part to come up live. I don't know what's going on. If you know, let me know in chat. Let me know on Twitter. I'm looking for the answer. And last week we did live interviews with Janna Marie, doing Lunch Time ASL. Delightful. But there was no audio, because we don't have audio for the ASL parts of this live stream. You also may be hearing lovely music behind us. We have a new, different, additional streaming service for music. Still good for Twitch and YouTube, not Facebook or TikTok or Instagram. This music service is Pretzel Rocks. And we have a license. It's about double the price of Monster Cat music. It does seem to have a deeper catalog, and it's a little easier to use. And we'll see how this works. Both streams over the weekend, as I was testing this, kind of had a stuttering problem where the music would kind of start and stop and start and stop. And doing a little bit of research about that, I discovered that all of this, as we know, is on the internet. Sometimes you can hear it, sometimes you can't hear it. It's a magical thing that any of this even works with the lights, the camera, the action, the microphone, the recording, the streaming. But I guess sometimes when you start with a new service, the music has to find you on what they call the cloud edge of distribution. So you play some of the songs from the streaming music system, and it caches and then plays more seamlessly. So I've been playing a lot of this Pretzel Rocks music for the last day and a half, and so far it seems to be going really well. Well, a lot of stuff happened over the weekend, and since we talk about memes and dramatic writing in the movies, it's difficult not to discuss what happened with Alec Baldwin and the inadvertent shooting of the camera woman, the director of photography on his movie. And really, what can you say? It was a terrible accident that never should have happened. And I do fear a little bit for Alec that he is now marked with this for a long time, perhaps the rest of his life. Will his obituary begin with the shooting? I don't know. But I do know that he is famous. He has the perception of having a lot of money in the public eye, and he is a producer. So all of that means that if people want money to be paid for their pain and suffering, they're probably going to be going to Alec Baldwin for help. And for that, I feel for him. Last week we talked a little bit about skin cancer, and here's the update on my scar. Soon-to-be scar. About 5 days ago, I had surgery to remove a lesion, and it's healing pretty well. The scab fell off this morning while shaving. Maybe I shaved it off, so there's a little divot where the scar used to be. But I've been through this before. It will all heal. It will all come back on its own. Now we're talking about a friend. We were discussing Halloween and what you're going to wear. And it made me remember something that my wife, Janna, and I did earlier this summer, where she had found these really funny facial masks to improve the texture and feeling and moisturization of your skin. And they had funny things printed on these facial masks. And I thought, oh my goodness, I gotta go back and I gotta find those photographs and share them with you. We're not doing this for Halloween because we did this during the summer. And almost every day for us is Halloween. So I have found the photographic evidence of the fun we had earlier. there is Janna Marie with her facial mask. You unwrap it. It's very wet and gel-like. You put it on your beautiful face and leave it there for about half an hour. Now this, if you don't know, is a llama. The llama Janna. Sort of hilarious, I must say. She looks terrific, though. And here is the photographic evidence I present against me. Oh, I didn't want this picture taken, but I didn't have a choice because I wasn't taking the picture. Now on Jan, as you can see, that her mask goes all the way up beyond her hairline. I happen to have a giant face, so my mask doesn't go up to my hairline, so it looks like I have some kind of strange skin disease going on, which we know I sort of do. This, I believe, was a leopard. It wouldn't be a tiger, right? Because tigers have stripes. It was some kind of cat. And we left those on for 30 minutes. Had quite a wonderful time. And they worked, believe it or not. So that was part of our pre-Halloween fun. Now, we'll also be having a visit from Janna Marie a little bit later, because earlier today, before the live stream, we took a test video of her doing a sign language lesson, because she's very busy today, and that means she can't really do a live stream with us. So I got a hold of my old nemesis, the GoPro Hero 10 Black. Okay. To shoot a little test video of her teaching numbers in ASL, 1 through 25. And the recording went well. However, trying to get that recording off the GoPro, connecting to my Wi-Fi system, connecting to my iPhone, downloading it. 5 minutes was about 1.7 gigs. And then uploading it to the GoPro cloud so I could show it to you later took about an hour and a half. And the process of trying to get this GoPro 10 Black to communicate with my iPhone over Wi-Fi was just impossible. And you go online, you read about it, we'll pull out the Wi-Fi, delete the Bluetooth, delete the local network, restart your phone, restart your go. I don't know. Maybe you're just supposed to go inside the camera, take out the little disc, and transfer it that way. But there has to be a better way, and I have to find it because Janna Marie is very busy, and sometimes the only way she can visit us and test us is through recorded video. All right. So now we're going to do something a little more interesting on a historical point of view, and that is discussing the lovely chokecherry. Now why? Where does that come from? I'll tell you right now. Here we go. This is my recyclable aluminum ball cup. And it's really quite nice. I admit that I love it. Holds my water. Absolutely delicious. But if you've never had a sip of anything out of a 100% aluminum cup, it is a little bit of a different experience because it gives you a little taste, a little zing. And you wonder, wow, that's an interesting experience if you're not used to it. Now we've lost our music somehow. This is part of all the fun. of live streaming, I'm told. We may have lost Pretzel Rocks. This is part of the fun of it. So, let's go back to our old friend, the Monster Cat, and see what we have going on there. Can we find a music to song to play? Aha! Monster Cat comes through. Pretzel Rocks is now paused. Well, it's all part of the fun of a live show. So anyway, this aluminum cup took me right back to my childhood and North Luke, Nebraska, when I would visit my grandfather. He was a local pharmacist, and he had these very special, thick aluminum cups in bright colors: red, yellow, green, blue. And they would hold the cold really well. You put in a couple of ice cubes, delicious. And he also would make for us, his grandkids, choke cherry punch. Now, if you've never had a choke cherry from the Midwest, it's a really interesting experience. They are very, very bitter and very bright red. And also dangerous to horses, because the seed and the leaves have cyanide in them, I believe. So this is from the University of Nebraska website. Choke cherry is common throughout much of the U.S. and southern Canada and grows across Nebraska. It is typically a suckering, multi-stemmed large shrub. It can be a small tree reaching up to 25 feet tall.
I have seen killer bees kill people, kill horses. They will attack anything that moves.
And so when you make a choke cherry punch, you have to add a lot of sugar and a lot of ice because it really has a zing. But it's an unforgettable flavor once you taste it. And it seems to be made better when put in an aluminum cup. And here is a larger photograph of what a choke cherry looks like once it's been picked. So you take those choke cherries, you put them in a strainer or some other kind of thing that crushes. You get the juice out of them, not a lot of pulp, just the juice. Add some water, add a lot of sugar, almost like a rhubarb sort of taste. And you're in the middle of it. It's quite delicious. Now we'll briefly discuss the movie Dune. And I was just a little disappointed in it, I'll be honest with you. I saw the 1984 version with Kyle MacLachlan. It was okay. Sting was in it. Interesting. Dune was a big book, and when you were growing up, you had to have the book to show that you were kind of a cool kid. And the book can be difficult to get through. So this new version of Dune was really widely heralded by a lot of fans of that kind of science fiction as being a really wonderful sort of telling. And I don't know how they knew this without really seeing the movie first. But I watched it at home on HBO Max, and it's very lovely. But I couldn't quite get over, you have this wonderful universe created by the director, Denis Villeneuve. And you then have actors who don't really fit in the universe of the movie. And the two lead characters, in my opinion, didn't really fit. Timothée Chalamet, lovely looking young man, acting, a lot of frowning. I would say he has a dead face for facial expression. Just kind of looks at you and expects you to know what he's thinking. Now, is that an actor problem or a director problem? Or a script problem? Probably a little bit of all. And then Zendaya, lovely, not very interesting as an actress, although she didn't have much to do in part one. And part one was 2.5 hours. And part two, maybe will be made, maybe will not be made. And I don't know if I'm interested in seeing part two. So those two, just because of their acting styles, Timothy and Zendaya, didn't really fit in the world of the movie. Now, other people who fit into the world were Rebecca Ferguson, Dave Bautista, and, I want to say a little bit surprisingly, Jason Momoa. Now, the three of them, for whatever reason, and they all have very different acting styles and different roles, when they spoke and moved, you believed that they were part of that community, that they were part of the universe. And it was very interesting to see them interact with each other. And for me, overall, what ruined the movie, Dune, was the fact that we had all of these fast forwards, these visions, these dreams. And I understand they're part of the story, and they're supposed to be prescient. But the problem is when you're telling a story on the screen and you're showing people what's going to happen before it actually happens, when it then does happen in the movie, the audience is already way ahead of you. Because you show me something now, it's going to happen 20 minutes later, so I have 20 minutes I have to waste until I actually get to see if the dream is real or not, or how the dream has changed. It's not a great way to engage an audience. There has to be a better way to have a dream sequence or a vision play out in real time instead of having to make us wait for the revelation. But the movie looked great. 2.5 hours went by relatively quickly. I think it could have been 45 minutes shorter. And so I would say on a scale of 1 to 100, I would give Dune 2021 a 77. Now that I've given my reviews, it's time for Writing the Human Meme podcast. Oh, and by the way, Dune was originally written in 1965, and the very first Star Wars movie came out in 1977. And they're kind of the same sort of story. A hero arc, predestiny, the chosen child. And who did it better? Well, probably George Lucas did it better in 1977 with that very first Star Wars movie that changed the world. The Dune book changed science fiction. The Dune movies have not really changed anything. And Star Wars didn't just change the genre, it changed the people en masse across the world. So now I am looking to find our next project, which is writing the Human Meme podcast. All right, so yesterday I recorded what we wrote together last week. And it went well, and we'll be playing in a couple of weeks online. So that was kind of a heavy one about death, dying, Squid Game. The old man actor talking about how life works and how life does not work. So today, we're going to go in a different direction. As I like to say, a head turner, where we go one way and then we go the other. And so this time we're going for something that's a little funnier, a little lighter. And it's about the 5-second rule. Are you familiar with the 5-second rule? Well, even if you know the 5-second rule, when you're doing a podcast that is listened to all over the world, luckily, you have to explain things and know what they mean. And the 5-second rule, when I was growing up, is if you dropped something you were eating on the ground, if you picked it up within 5 seconds, you could eat it without any harm. Now, of course, it's ridiculous, but that's what kids do. And I even did that one time when I was teaching. There was a great big garbage can filled with active garbage from a party, and I dropped in a stick of gum. It was a chiclet, I think, into the garbage by mistake, and I went down, picked it up, put it right back in my mouth. And these were public health students, and they all sort of had a cow that I was eating, chewing the gum that had dropped into the garbage. I thought it was fine. It was delicious. I didn't get sick. Everything worked well. So here we go, writing the script. Human meme. 5-second rule. Rules. So already we're having fun. So we have to start with the introduction. Yes. In case you don't know, there is a rule about us that concerns the health of eating something you held and then dropped on the floor and then picked up and ate it anyway. Yes. It's called the 5-second rule. And we're going to discuss that and more on today's Human Meme podcast. Now, just because I'm INTJ, a little bit of OCD, and probably a lot anal retentive, I'm going back to our music, and I'm going to turn off Music Cat, and I'm going to go back to our new pretzel rocks to see if we can figure out what went wrong and why. Let me play a different song here and see if anything comes up. I'm not sure why it's not playing. Ah! So this is chill EDM, and the thing that stopped playing, with over 2,000 tracks and 103 hours that stopped playing after 25 minutes of streaming, was the Chill remix. This is all part of the testing process of being a live streamer, and I thank you for your kind attention. All right, back to work. Now, the idea that I had in coming up with this idea for this particular podcast script was there are other 5-second rules that don't have to do just with dropping things on the ground and eating them. I don't know what they are, but that's why we're going to be writing this together and trying to figure it out. So here are my quick notes. Yes, I eat everything from the floor. I'm not afraid of dirt. 5 seconds is a lifetime and a nothing moment. Moldy bread is fine. So will you, and I think that's all I have. Oh boy. So we got a lot of work to do. Okay, so more intro. Yes, I eat things from the floor. One time, while teaching a class in public health at a major East Coast university, I mistakenly dropped a piece of opened but yet unchewed gum into an open garbage can. Growing up in the Midwest, I knew about the 5-second rule, and I quickly retrieved my gum from the open receptacle and I placed the chiclet in my mouth and began chewing. My students were agog and in horror at my bad taste and my terrible terms in following the social rules of public health in America. I confessed right then that I was raised in the Midwest with dirt and sky and braided prairie. And we knew that if you picked up your dropped edible food, you had 5 seconds to pretend the accident never happened and then eat it or chew it into submission. My students then sort of screamed and then stood there looking at me as if I were an alien from a land they did not know, instead of being the evaluator of their learning about public health. I did not give in or apologize to them, and they did not apologize to me. I did, however, enjoy my chewing gum. Okay. That's the intro. And now, my friend, you know what time it is. It's time for a very brief intermission as I go take care of some business with my blood pressure. Back in just one moment. We are back from our break. A pee break. Blood pressure medication rules your life. Now, we were starting the writing with the Human Meme podcast, and I made a small mistake because I forgot my scene transition, so I'm going to play that right now. It's writing. With David Boles. Starring my photograph. And these scene transitions are supposed to help, kind of turn your head the other way, introduce things. And last week I made a small mistake with Janna Marie. In that, we were doing Hello Live ASL, Lunch Time ASL with Janna Marie, and I forgot her introduction. We just went right to her without her Halloween introduction, which looks like this. So I'm playing it now, so I'll get credit for it later. So I forgot to play this at the beginning of her segment, which she didn't care about, but it bothered me because I made this thing. And so I was fussing with it all during her presentation, thinking, well, I guess I could play it at the end of her presentation and still get interesting credit for it. And in that process of thinking, when I should have been watching and learning, I neglected to say back to Janna Marie after her lesson, I love you. We always say that during her sessions. So she said, I love you. I was fiddling with the Halloween thing, trying to get the Halloween thing to play. So when this is over, the live stream, later we watch together what happens as part of trying to make the stream better and more interesting. So we were watching her Halloween tree segment, and it was winding up, and she said the I love you thing. And I didn't. And she just looked at me and said, I said I loved you and you didn't say you loved me back. And I tried to explain myself about the Halloween thing and the scene change and how I missed it at the beginning, and none of it mattered. As it shouldn't matter. When your wife of 33 years says she loves you, you say you love her back. And so, Janna Marie, I love you, darling. And I'm sorry. It'll never happen again. Okay, back to the writing. Now, technically, I think I should probably put my writing scene back up so we all know what I'm doing, but I'm not going to. Okay, so now comes the hard part. I guess we should fill out the rest of these ideas here. So I'm not afraid of dirt. I am not afraid of dirt or grime. Just ask my wife when she sees the filth I live and work in my office, not at home. I fear no dust. I am bedfellows with every dust bunny in the neighborhood. In the world of public health, 5 seconds is a lifetime. And, frankly, also a nothing moment. Okay. Oh, and we gotta add that kicker. The kicker line about moldy bread. Moldy bread is fine. We know. know, penicillin heals with every grotesque swallow. That's a public health joke, you know. Okay, now. Okay, so we've set up everything that I've already thought of. Now we have to get creative. And this is where chat can help. If you have any ideas about what other 5-second taboos we have, now is the time to share them so they can be included in the Human Meme Podcast script. And we're only on page 2. That experience with the 5-second rule got me to thinking, what other totems and myths and caricatures of proper behavior do we ingest and also fling on others? Isn't there some rule in kissing that it isn't really a kiss unless tongues are involved? Or am I disremembering another childhood meme of mine from the Midwestern playground? Okay, so that's the idea. What are these other things we have that are in our culture that may be myths or suggested story things? Okay. Aha, here's another one. I am reminded of the 7-year rule when it came to swallowing your chewing gum. Yes. If you happened to swallow your gum, it stayed in your stomach for 7 years. Now, we know that isn't true, but a young child is not only vulnerable to lies, but susceptible. Remember, when you're writing, we're just putting this out in a blaze. We don't worry about spelling. We don't worry about formatting. We go back and fix that in a revision we do later in the week. Now, we know that isn't true. But a young child is not only vulnerable to lies, but susceptible to keen secrets that are traded as insider knowledge. I think the chewing gum myth of 7 years began with parents at home and teachers at school. Gum, for many years in the 1970s, was seen as unseemly, dirty, and bad manners. It was especially rude to chew your gum in front of others unless you offered them a stick of gum as well. chewing gum in class was forbidden because it took your attention away from the learning and focused it on the blowing of the biggest bubbles. Bubble Yum brand ruled the 7th grade. So teachers, trying to catch you in the act of chewing your gum, would ask, "Are you chewing gum?" And because we were young and guilty and naive, we would say, "Of course not. I know the rules." And the teacher would slowly rise from the chair, walk over to you, and ask us to open our mouths to show we were not chewing any gum. And in that moment, from the rise of the teacher to the opening of the mouth, a decision had to be made. Did you continue with the lie of the gum? Our mouths were not big enough to hide a giant wad of bubble gum. So we either had to confess, yes, we lied, and we were chewing, or we could double down and do the swallowing of the gum to remove all evidence of breaking a class time rule. I would wager today that 99% of students caught chewing their gum in class swallowed the evidence, and thus began their 7-year curse. The kids didn't know about the 7-year rule. No, that came from the adults, because they wanted to change our behavior and our method of moving and our allergy to the easy lie. Yes, the adults didn't want us ruining our teeth. They didn't want to find wads of dried gum stuck under the table or the desk. They didn't want us doing anything except behaving as expected. It took several years and many research opportunities in college to actually discover that the 7-year rule on gum was not real. It was made up to force better behavior among children. But there was no shaking the notion of the betrayal. Children are expected to lie to adults when caught doing the wrong thing. But children never expect adults to purposefully lie to them for a reason that doesn't benefit the adult or the child. It is that bursting of the blister of expectation that causes the child to stop trusting. And perhaps that's a good thing. Every child, every person should be aware of the possible lie and the availability of the absolute truth. Be it a 5-second rule for eating from the floor or the garbage can or being lied to that bubblegum would bubble in your guts for 7 years. There are other ways. Remember, these 3 forward slashes mean take a break, take a breath, or if you have a double slash like this, that means we're turning our head. We're going in a different way, we're starting a whole new big thought, big pause, and now we're going into where we're wrapping things up just a little bit. There are other ways to control behavior without lowering oneself to the easy lie. We can try to convince with logic. We can sway with emotion. We can determine the end of the golden moment with the threat of a rising dark steel. These are our choices in life. And we need to be wary in expressing them. We want to be believed. We want to hold respect. We want to make a positive And that all means we cannot take the easy path of control and manipulation. We need to respect the thoughts of others. We need to earn the insight of minds that are not our own. We need to live to allow the ideas that it is perfectly fine to go our own way as long as we are not injuring or hindering the lives of others. So, my human being friend, join me. In the Bubble Yum garbage bag treat. And we'll celebrate it all with an awesome swallow. In celebration of the 7-year curse. Okay, that's about 5 pages for a first draft. Not terrible. There is something I wanted to go back and fix that concerned me just a little bit. Not concerned me, but something that I don't want to forget because I will forget it. And now I may have already forgotten it. The opening of the mouth. As the kids. That's not where it goes. It goes earlier. It was a small measure of magnitude when the gum was swallowed and the mouth was presented empty and open in complete victory and total disregard for the teacher who knew what we were doing and allowed it to happen anyway. Every small victory matters to a child. Every large manipulation of behavior is a defeat for the unwitting adult. Aha! Okay. So that's how you write the Human Being Podcast script. Each week, we'll revise this later in the week, maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. Yeah. It's good enough. It's good enough. For now. And now it is that time again. Blood pressure break time. I'll see you on the flip side of our P moment. Back into Zing Zang. And we are back. Thank you for joining the David Boles live stream. I almost said podcast, but it's not a podcast. It's much more than that. It's visuals. It's the ugliness live and in your eye. So today on the East Coast, it's cool. Over the weekend, it became very cool. We lost 20 degrees in one day. And that's kind of a terrible, deceptive thing because dry air is a major problem for people and for electronic things. Dry air is the number one cause of the common cold. And you can fight that by drinking a lot of water, doing a neti pot. I might do a neti pot demonstration here for you live one day this week, just to show you how to take care of yourself. And dry air creates dry nasal passages, dry nose, dry mouth, and it also creates static electricity. So as you walk around, you touch things, you shock things, that's how your computer breaks, that's how your microphone goes kablooky. So you can have a humidifier to put moisture in the air. Some people just boil water on the stove to get some moisture in the air. If it's a rainy day like today, you can open the window and the moisture comes from outside. So I have the air conditioning on because it's very hot in here with all these lights and all this electronic equipment in this very small room. And one of the things I use, I have one of these in every room we have, is a hygrometer. It tells you how much moisture is in the air every moment of every day. You can use Fahrenheit or Celsius. It also tells you the temperature. Now, in this room I'm in, when I started this live stream, the temperature was 76 degrees. I set the air conditioner an hour and a half ago to be 68 degrees. So you can see, either the hygrometer is not working, or the air conditioner is not working. So this is very helpful. You want to try to be around 50% humidity for optimum health. And what I also love about this particular one is it has a little thing you can turn it on so it has a light. Sweet, right? And sometimes in the winter, it gets very cold and very awful. Whoops, I hit the wrong screen. Main open. Hello. It gets very dry, like 20%, and the temperature goes way down. That's when you know you're in trouble. I prefer to have a little bit higher humidity in here than having low humidity, just because it's a little bit healthier for you. And we don't have a mold problem, so that's a good thing to have on your side. Well, we wrote our Human Being podcast script, and I admit it takes a little bit out of me, but it's necessary to do every single day, at least thinking about it. But the writing of it with you is really the highlight of this live stream. Now we are going to do something that scares me, but that must be done, because we have to face our fears. And that one thing is this. Yes, it's really bad chess. Again with your friend and mine, David Boles. Now today we're going to go somewhere else. We're going to actually go back to Chessable, but we're going to have a little bit of a lesson so we'll feel better about our chess learning and not feel quite so defeated all the time. Last week was rough. I don't think I got one puzzle right. I don't think I got one exercise right. It was a big disaster. But you stuck with me, and I appreciate that very much. So we go to our friends at Chessable, and Chessable is a wonderful place where it teaches you how to think like a proper chess player. And one of my favorite teachers is Grandmaster Johan Helston. I would love to show you this video, but that is not allowed. That is a DMCA violation. But I will show you some of the teaching. You can review moves that he teaches you. He takes you through the whole lesson of the chapter and what you need to do to be successful. So you watch the video. This one's 34 minutes, 35 minutes. And each little piece of the lesson takes you to a specific place in the video where you can start to learn. So review moves is what you do when you've already done that part of the test. And learn moves is where you test yourself to see if you can remember everything that he's teaching you. Now, learning moves, anything over... anything over, I say, 8 is very difficult for me for some reason. But I'll try. So the trainer shows you the move you have to make. Then you make the move. Then your opponent, the computer, makes its move. And then you have to make your next move. It sounds confusing because it is confusing. But that's never stopped us before. And it's timed, if you remember. It's time. So we're playing white. This is the end game series. Johan has a strategy, which covers the whole thing. He has a middle game book, I believe, and then he has this end game book. I have them all. I'm working on them. And this is what it's like to learn online with Chessable. So you click next. It's going to show you your move, then you have to make that move. Okay, so the king moves 1. So then you click next, and then you make that move. 1. Boink. Oh! Oh! Okay, black king moved. Then you have to move, and this is opposition. You can't get any closer than that, and you want to be in control of the opposition where that red circle is. So you click next, then you have to make the move against the move that the black king makes. So we go there, boom, boom, boom. Okay, we're going right up, one apart. We're walking all the way down. This is, I can remember this. Okay. Now, when you get to this point, you're trying to run this pawn up the board to get a queen. So this king has to protect this pawn from this king and this bishop. So that's what we're doing now. So when you get to this point, with that king here and your king here, you got to move up the pawn. So that king makes that move. You go here. That king goes here to try to cut off your pawn. So you take the long route, going this way, to protect your pawn from the advance of that king. So that king goes diagonal, so you go diagonal. There's the bishop coming up to take the pawn. So this pawn moves up to protect this pawn from this evil impending bishop, which is going that way, and it will probably go this way and then that way. And then you're going to have a big problem. But we'll see. We're learning together. Oop. Up. Here we go. See? Okay, so this bishop moves here. This pawn goes up 2 with the idea of advancing this pawn. Up 2. Boom. Oh, here we go. Now we have to learn. Now we have to do the whole thing. And I think they make us do it 3 times. Am I going to remember? Ooh, nope. I already got it wrong. See, look at that. Oh, jeez. Okay, so it's diagonal, diagonal, up, 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 I go one more. Up. They get this one here. Yeah. Okay. Oh, over. He goes over, I go over. Right. Bishop goes up. This goes up. Bishop goes down. I go up too. Yay, I did it right. Now, see, I have to do it a second time because I got it wrong the first time. It's angular. Boom. And then boom. Angle again. Up. Now we're racing. 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 Then when I get here, I bring up my pawn. The king goes angular. Now I go angular as well. I go up to protect the pawn. The bishop comes down. The pawn goes up. And again, because this is called repetition, they make me do it again. Do it quickly before you forget, old man. All right, I will. Angle. What happened? What'd I do? Is that not right? Oh, okay. It was testing me on the first move that I missed the first time I tried it. So once I did the move right, then it's letting me go. So we learned 9 moves, which for me is very good. But this wasn't that hard. Time studied was 4 minutes and 39 seconds. I gained a massive 550 stars. Exit. Oh, that's so good. What's this ring-a-ding telling me? New book. New learning available. Love that. Okay, so we're not done because we have to be dedicated in our learning. So we're continuing. So, mastering endgame strategy we just did. Mastering chess strategy is the other book, and mastering opening strategy. So the middle game book is not the middle game. I do have a middle game book. But right now we're doing the end game. This one. And I usually do really pretty well. But last week I did not do so well. But today's a new day. The new opportunity for success. Oh, look at this. Learn moves 8. Oh. That feels like too many. Not for today. Let's try a 4. Here we go. We're learning. This is an endgame. Now we start all over. Do it again. Do it again. Okay, so that was the black pawn becoming queen. 4 new moves. Under a minute. Gain 240 stars. I'll take it. Now, what I was trying to show you was what we did last week, but obviously I didn't scroll down far enough. This is what we're looking for, our Deadly Checkmate puzzle test quiz. This is what we blew up last week. Okay, here we go. We got to do one of these to try to find a little bit of redemption. Okay, a solve in 2. We'll see. Okay, so white to play. Checkmate in 2 moves. Well, this is the king is the queen is in charge. This rook is here. This rook can go this away. The black queen is protecting many things. This rook protects this queen. So where do we begin? They really like a queen sacrifice, but I'm not sure that's the right move. I'm going to move my rook because I'm running out of time. Oh, see, they want the queen sacrifice. Okay, so they take the queen. And then I must take this rook. No. I move that rook. Oh, I'm having such a terrible time at this. Oh. And it's not even a finished checkmate. I learned 2 moves. My accuracy was 0%. We've set a new low. Time studied, 1 minute. XP gained, 60. Oh boy. Well, that was just unfortunate. There's no way around that. Now we're going to try something a little different as we begin this. It's Lunchtime ASL with Janna Marie Sweeney. Even though Janna's not here, she's with us, live on videotape, and she has a small and delightful lesson for you. Now remember, I had to get this video off the GoPro Hero 10, re-establish the Wi-Fi connection, download it to my iPhone, which took a long time, then upload it from my iPhone to the GoPro website, which took a long time. And then the GoPro website has to process the video for you so we can watch it today. So I didn't get a chance to edit this, put an opening on it, a fade in, a fade out. I didn't get a chance to do anything with sound. So it's all very raw. Shot this morning at 5 a.m. before she left for work. So she's in the dark with a single light on her. It is romantic, but perhaps not the best way to shoot high-definition video. And here we go with our favorite Janna Marie. There she is, in her office. And now I need to very slowly turn down the music. And turn down my microphone as we get ready for Janna Marie. That's Janna Marie. And Hardcore ASL, Lunchtime Edition. So the interesting thing about numbers and rocking numbers and 1 through 10 and 1 through 15 and 1 through 25 is the movement and what makes things work. And you could see that very crisply in that video from Janna Marie, how to make the hand shapes become not just letters, but numbers with meaning in a sequence. And the video looked pretty good. I have to give it to the GoPro Hero 10 Black. Even all that trouble we had transferring the information. In the end, it worked out. And in the end, that's all that matters. We now have our final break of the day. Then we're going to come back and talk about genetics and 23andMe. Stand by. We'll be right back in a moment. And we are back. Week number 2 of David Boles Live. It's been a wonderful time. We've talked about many different things. I appreciate you so much for being here in the early days before anybody knows who we are or what we're doing here. Even though we don't know who we are or what we're doing here. But don't tell anybody. So, I don't know if you've heard about 23andMe. It's a very interesting company. They do genetic testing that has to do with biological ancestry. And it deals with culture and how we come to be and sharing hidden biological secrets with each other. Related by blood. And 23andMe just yesterday acquired Lemonade Health. And they are going to be focusing on telemedicine and pharmaceuticals in their purchase of Lemonade Health. So you know where 23andMe is going. They're not just going to be about family trees anymore. They're now going to be digging into what makes you healthy and what makes you unhealthy. So I'm going to share with you some of my experience with 23andMe. Now, first of all, I have a little bit of a disclaimer. My family tree sort of messed up from an early marriage, my mother, and then a divorce, and then a remarry. So my name is David Boles, as you know me here. But I was born David Isherwood in Lincoln, Nebraska. This thing you see right here? I call this the Isherwood frown, the Maginot line between happiness and sorrow. And people misunderstand this thing. They think, oh my gosh, you look so angry. You're so mad all the time. I said, I'm not, I'm just ugly. But when I concentrate or think, see the thing goes, and it looks like I'm very angry. And then people who know me know I'm not. And somebody said, why don't you just get Botox? Go right in there, take the shot right there, smooth it out. Smooth out the wrinkles in your forehead, right? And you'll be attractive, younger. Won't look so angry all the time. What can I do? I'm not an angry person, but I do have an angry brow. So when we do family trees for me, it's always messed up because my names don't match up with who I am. So I try to make it clear on ancestry sites that I am actually David Isherwood. Follow that tree, not the BOLES tree. And the thing I like about 23andMe is none of that matters. What you call yourself, what gender you are, what your last name is, first name is. You can be whomever you like to be because you can't run away from your blood and your DNA. That tells you exactly who you are and what you're doing here. And so here we go. I'll share with you my 23andMe account. Now, when you do this testing, you buy a kit that they send to you. I've done a couple of these because they keep advancing and they can't keep using your old spit all the time. And that's what you do. You spit into a tube, seal it, send it back, and then in like a week or 2 or 3, I don't remember, they send you an email saying, you have new relatives, you're updated, here's your genetic report. And you log into the website or the app that they have on your phone. And you come up here and you see a little alert. Oh, look at that. You have 12 new DNA relatives. Take your nutrition research. You have 11 new relatives, 23 relatives, all these relatives. And of course, I don't know any of them. And none of them have a lot of shared similarity with me in DNA. I think the closest one is a young woman, and we share 4% of the same DNA profile. It looks to me on the family tree that they create for me that she's like a second cousin or something. But I want to be very careful not to click on those DNA relatives because some of their real names are there and I don't want to violate their privacy. I have no privacy, so I don't mind sharing my information with you. So this circle here with me in the middle is my ancestry tree. So let's click on your ancestry composition, which sounds very fancy. And if there's anything that you're not supposed to see here, I'm going to change the screen. Okay, this is all fine. So, David, 100% of me. 82.1% is Northwestern European. And here's what that means. Whoops. Northwestern Europeans are represented by people from as far west as Ireland, and as far north as Norway, and as far east as Finland, and as far south as France. These countries rim the North and Baltic Seas and have been connected throughout much of history by those waters. So I'm 82% of that. Whatever that means, I really don't understand it. I am 41% British and Irish. That's the Isherwood part. UK, here we go. French and German. %. Oh, maybe this is all making up the Northwestern European. Okay. Broadly Northwestern European, 9%. Whatever that means. Same thing that I read to you before. Eastern European, Czech Republic. This is the mother side of the family. Czechoslovakia. Bring me a kolache. And I'll eat it. Poppy seed kolache, please. Hard to find on the East Coast. So I'm 17% Eastern European, Czech. Broadly European, 0.8%. Trace ancestry, which is 0.1. Broadly West African. Now that's new. I've never seen that before. So there's 0.1% of me that is West African. For over a millennium before European colonization in the Atlantic slave trade, West Africans were united under a series of powerful empires, resulting in broad similarities of music, clothing, art, and cuisine. A gradient of genetic similarity extending from Senegal to Nigeria reflects a richly complex population history in a region home to over 350 million people, who form hundreds of distinct ethnic groups. Broadly West African DNA may match several populations, making it difficult to assign just one. So I am unassigned. That 0.1%, but I love it that there's a drop of broadly West African blood in me. And this was updated on June 14th of this year. So that's my summary. What's the scientific detail? I don't know. Oh, this is just... okay. Oh, a little breakdown. Guernsey, Ireland, French and German. Some of it matches, some of it doesn't match. DNA relatives. That's where everybody's names are named, and some people want their names shared, some people are just anonymous. That one I can't click on. Let's see if ancestry composition. Did we ever look at that one? Yeah, we were just on that page. Okay, so now we go to health and traits, which is where it starts to get really interesting. Because your blood, your DNA, is going to determine how healthy you are in your old age. And if you're going to have any problems in your young life as well. So heart health, I have 3 genetic reports. And sleep quality, I have 3 genetic reports. My lifestyle dashboard tells me what to do. Health predisposition, oh, it's all here. Let's go to all reports. And you can do this yourself. You just buy a kit. It's like $100, $150. You send it in, and my suggestion is you get a lot of people in your family to do it, because then it's really fun, especially if you're all kind of bound by blood or marriage, and you all send them in at the same time and you all get everything back. You put a big piece of the puzzle of your life, of who you are, back together again. It's really very exciting. So here we go with my health predisposition. Now I'm sharing this with you with the understanding that you're going to forget everything that I'm sharing. Age-related macular degeneration. There is some of that in my family. Variant is detected, but not a likely risk. Oh, look at all these. We're not going to go through all of these, but we'll go through some of the more interesting ones. So I click on this, means there's information. Age-related macular degeneration. One variant was detected in the CFH gene. You are not, this is the important part, you are not likely at an increased risk of developing AMD based on your genetic results. So that's sort of nice. Now, a lot of people can kind of get scared on this because they think, well, I don't want any of that to happen to me because I don't want to know. If you could know the day you were going to die, would you want to know or not? No. Some people want to know. Other people say, surprise me. I'll just keep living. Now, here's the one that sort of scares me just a little bit. Type 2 diabetes. This does run in my family, especially older men. I have an increased likelihood. And my A1C is just on the edge of not being perfect, which is a concern because I was raised to be a perfect child. Here's the issue that scares me slightly, but I do find it very helpful. But my recent blood test told me the same thing, but this confirms it on a genetic level. Based on data from 23andMe research participants, people of European descent with genetics like you have an estimated 33% chance of developing type 2 diabetes at some point between the ages of 56, your current age, and 80. So I have 24 years to worry about this, if I'm lucky. And here's this awful graph. I don't have a lot of these awful graphs, but this is the one that I don't like. Typical range, 0 to whatever this is, 20, I would guess. And here I am at 33%. So I'm sort of in the greenish, yellowish range, which is slightly a concern. But you need to know it. Now let's see my estimated likelihood broken down by age, the average, and people with genetics like you. Okay, 20s, 30s, 40s, oh, 50s, okay. Oh, it goes way up and start getting over. Oh, when you get to your 60s, it looks really bad. And if you can make it out of your 60s, where you have a 20% chance of getting it, then it goes down to like 7%. Your 70s becomes your 40s if you have this diabetes thing. So it's your 50s, where I am right now, and my 60s. The next 14 years, I got to be careful. Got to eat right, got to lose the weight, portion control. And you do all that, and your A1C still doesn't mean it's going to get any better. But at least you're aware of it. So that gives you all kinds of wonderful information on risk factors, symptoms, and complications. On how to deal with your possible diabetes. All right, so let's go back to the other screen and see what it says about what else is ailing me. So here are the other things that it tests for. Alpha-1, BRCA, celiac disease, none of these are detected. Kidney disease, carrier status, very important if you want to have children. I don't have any of these variants, luckily, but they're all here. Wellness, oh, this is fun. Alcohol flush reaction. When you drink, you get red-faced. Unlikely to flush. It's true. Caffeine consumption. Your daily coffee? Likely to consume more. It's true. Let's see what it says about caffeine. David, based on your genetics, you're likely to drink more caffeine than average. And it explains everything in my genetics and how many cups of coffee I need a day. Well, we already know that. I do love caffeine. And I've been off caffeine, I've been on caffeine, I've been off caffeine. Really, it doesn't make any difference. Deep sleep, Less likely to be a deep sleeper. My Aura ring tells me that as well every day. You tossed and turned last night. You didn't get enough REM sleep. Yes, I know. I'm genetically disposed. Predisposed. Genetic weight. Predisposed to way above average. Watch what you eat, young man. Lactose intolerance. Likely tolerant. I am. Muscle composition. Common in elite power athletes. I accept your recommendation. Saturated fat and weight. Likely to weigh more on a high saturated fat diet. And that's true. That's why I went vegan, because my cholesterol was very high. Animal oil makes my weight go up and makes my blood pressure high. Sleep movement. Likely average or less movement while you're sleeping. Traits. Ability to match musical pitch. Likely to be able to match musical pitch. Means you can sing. I do sing. Asparagus. Odor detection. I didn't even know that was a genetic thing. I can smell asparagus. Yes, I do. Does he have back hair? Likely little upper back hair. Very true. Bald spot? Likely no bald spot. My haircut might disagree with that one. Maybe thinning hair isn't considered a bald spot. Can you taste something bitter? Likely can't taste. Now that's interesting to me because I think I can taste bitter. I can taste choke cherries. Bunions? Less likely than average to have bunions. My lovely wife Janna says I have the feet of an infant. Very soft and smooth, no calluses. She says I need to walk and stand more, which is true for all of us. My cheek dimples. No dimples. It's true. Cilantro taste aversion. I hear it tastes like soap if you have that. Slightly higher odds of disliking cilantro, which is actually true. I didn't know it was a genetic reason. But I don't think it tastes like soap. I just think it has a weird smell to it. Do I have a cleft in my chin? No cleft. Do I have dandruff? Likely to get dandruff. Don't have that problem, luckily. Earlobe type. Likely a detached earlobe. I didn't know this was a thing. Is that detached or attached? I'll let you decide. I guess it's detached. I don't know. I think it is. Early hair loss. Likely hair loss. My short haircut does agree with that one. Earwax type. Not even sure why we test for this. I guess if you're trying to get hearing aids or something. My earwax type is likely wet earwax, which I think is true. I do not have sticky earwax. It is sort of oily and easily removable. Eye color, likely blue or green eyes. Now, I've written about this before because I thought I always had hazel eyes. And my eye doctor, who did a deep check on my eyes, said your eye color is actually gray. Because, as I told him, depending on what I wear, a blue shirt or a green shirt, my eyes reflect the color of the shirt I'm wearing. And he said, well, that's not your eye color, blue or green. Your eye color is gray. Because those colors transfer up into your gray eyes. Okay, I accept it. Makes sense. It had tormented me for many years because one moment I would look in my eye and see one color, and another moment I'd see another color. Am I scared of heights? Less average to be afraid of heights. I do not have a fear of heights. Fear of public speaking, which is what we're doing in this live stream. David Boles, less likely to have a fear of public speaking. True. Finger length ratio. Likely ring finger is longer than your other fingers. Well, right. Okay, I get what that means. So, see? My ring finger is longer than my index finger. If that's what that means. Maybe I should check. Ring finger. I have to know what it means. Handy information. Palm readers believe the future is written in your hands, but some scientists believe the relative length of your fingers says a lot more about you and your genetics. David, The combination of your genetics and other factors makes you likely to have longer ring fingers than index fingers. Well, I just showed you that, didn't I? Isn't that interesting? Of 23andMe research participants with results like yours, 77% have longer ring fingers and 23% have longer index fingers. Which finger of yours is longer? Well, isn't that something? Here we go again. I'll show you the finger. Ring finger, index finger. Index finger, ring finger. Okay, ring. I don't know why that matters. I don't know what it means. Does it mean I can play the piano better? Because I've never been able to play the piano. Well, it just goes on and on and on. We could spend all day on this, but we won't. Okay, here we go. Flat feet. Less likely than average to have flat feet. I don't have much of an arch, but you can add an arch, and I'm working on it. Freckles. Likely little freckling. True, no freckles, but I do burn really easily. Hair photo bleaching. About a 50-50 chance of experiencing hair photo bleaching. That means when you go out in the sun, does your hair get lighter? It does. I had a cousin who hadn't seen me for a while, and I was a little older, hadn't been in the sun as much as I was as a child when she knew me, and she said, "Your hair is darker than it used to be." And I was looking at her and said, "What? It goes the other way around. Your hair gets lighter as you get older." No, your hair's darker. I guess that's what it is. If I had 23andMe 15 years ago, I would have known the answer. Hair texture, likely straight or wavy. Well, it's definitely straight. Rabbit hair is what it was called when I was younger. Hair thickness, likely to have thick hair. Well, that's not true. That's the first one we're not getting right. Are we keeping track of this? Ice cream flavor preference. More likely to prefer chocolate or over vanilla ice cream. I do prefer chocolate over vanilla, but I don't like a lot of chocolate. The Wendy's Frosty, when I used to eat those, that was the perfect flavor of chocolate for me. Rocky Road, double chocolate, mocha chocolate, chocolate on chocolate. It's too much, I can't eat it. Light or dark hair? Likely dark. True. Oh, misophonia. I wrote about that as well. Average odds of hating chewing sounds. I'm off the chart on misophonia. And I know one of my cousins has misophonia in the same way that I have misophonia. Because I remember as a young child, this cousin of mine said to my mother, "Would you please stop snapping your gum? You're driving me crazy." And she was 7 years old, I believe. I was 6. I remember. And misophonia is a curse because every little sound annoys you. That's why I wear headphones. And if you remember the very first David Boles Live production, I shared with you my new Sony in-ear headset after I threw away my AirPods Pro. These work. They block out all sounds. If you have misophonia, here you go. There's your answer. Fantastic. Lightweight. They look heavy, but they're not. You don't even know they're there. And they cancel all noise. Mosquito bite frequency. Likely bitten less often than others. That's true. And I've read that means you have high acid in your blood. If you don't want to be bitten by mosquitoes, drink apple cider vinegar. A little bit a day mixed with water, and it will lessen that problem. My wife, every time she goes outside, she's bitten by something. She's very sweet in every way, and the bugs know it. Motion sickness. Less likely to experience motion sickness. That's true. Riding in a car, airplane, I don't get sick. Newborn hair. Likely little baby hair. I don't really remember, but I've seen photographs of myself. I did not have a lot of hair. Photic sneeze reflex. Likely no photo sneeze reflex. Now, I can't exactly remember what that one is. It's kind of funny, though. It could be a case of crossed wires in the brain, but for some people, bright sunlight kicks off a round of sneezing. Now, I don't have that. That is kind of funny, but I do feel for people who have it, because the second you go outside, you're sneezing on people. Our music is going in and out. It's part of our test of live streaming. Red hair. No red hair. True. Skin pigmentation. Likely lighter skin. Yes. My skin is so white that it's green. Stretch marks. Less likely to have stretch marks. That's true. Men can get stretch marks from gaining weight or working out. Stretch marks are a part of life. They're all right. Sweet versus salty on the tongue. Likely prefers salty. Yes. Too much sweet, can't take it. Anything salty, I'll take. And I'm not allowed to have a lot of salt because of my high blood pressure. Toe length ratio. Likely the big toe is longer. Now, as I remember, my second toe, or is it my first toe? No, it's not the big toe, but the next toe is very long. And I have a tendency of stubbing it when I walk barefoot. That's why I don't like to walk barefoot, because that second toe gets caught and tucked under the rest of my foot, and I walk on it and I hurt my knuckle. Unibrow. Likely at least a little bit of a unibrow. Yes, it's true. And maybe I should let mine grow instead of shaving it every day, because it might cover the Isherwood frown. I did all through high school have a unibrow. I thought it was fine. Women in class would come up and say, "Shave that, please. What's wrong with you?" Wake up time. Likely time to wake up? Is this... Now that's really specific. Likely to wake up at 7:18 a.m. Now why don't I wake up at 7:17 a.m.? Have I overslept if it's 7:19? David, people with your genetics in their 50s wake up on average around 7:18 a.m. on their days off. I find that I think is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever read, but obviously there's science behind it. To predict your wake-up time, we looked at 450 places in your DNA that are associated with being either a morning person or a night person. In addition to genetics, as you get older, you're likely to naturally wake up earlier. Adjust the tools below to see how different genetics and age could affect your wake-up time. Me. I'm a morning person. I am now. I used to be a night person. When I was younger, I would stay up all night and sleep until noon. Now it's the other way around. I get up at 4 in the morning and I go to bed at 9:30. You have to have at least 7 hours of sleep, or in your 50s, you're going to get dementia. I didn't used to believe that either, but I do now. So I'm a morning person as hard as we can go. My age is 50s. My predicted wake-up time has changed from 7:18 to 7:05. Well, it's about 2 hours off. But I'll accept it. And finally, do I have a widow's peak? Likely no widow's peak. Widow's peak is where your hair grows like this. Eddie Munster had a widow's peak, if you know who Eddie Munster is. I do not have a widow's peak. Did not have a widow's peak. So there we go. That's my DNA. Is there any research we have, or are we done with this? As surveys, as questions, I try to answer every question they ask me. Yes, and here we go. Well, I'm a research all-star. You've completed all the questions. Thank you for participating with 23andMe. It asks you questions about your behavior and how you're feeling and all of that stuff. And so there you have it. My DNA profile, logged, recorded, saved. I'm sure it will come back to haunt me one day. Show us your toes, young man. What time did you wake up in the morning? Present your ring finger for measuring and inspection. You can't hide from us. So, as we conclude this wonderful experiment today. I thank you for joining me on David Boles Live, and I want to leave you with this following thought about nostalgia. And that's kind of been the theme we've had today, I realize. We talked about choke cherry, juice, and punch, bitterness with sweetness in an aluminum cup. We talked about Star Wars. We talked about the unfortunate movie Dune. We talked about Alec Baldwin. We talked about genetics. We talked about gum chewing in the Midwest as a young man in our Human Meme podcast script. So nostalgia can be strong. Nostalgia is a yearning, a smell, can take you back 50 years. The way the sun hits your face can remind you of a moment in your childhood. And nostalgia, I think, can be dangerous in some ways because people get caught up in it. They remember how life was and not how life is. And if you're on Facebook and you join some of these groups, your high school group, your hometown group, you see a lot of posts about people who are dead. And you see a lot of posts about people who remember when. And I'm reminded of Tony Soprano in the original Sopranos series as he was screaming at people who said, "Remember when?" And Tony Soprano said, "Remember when?" Well, he didn't say it this way, but his point was, remember when is the most uninteresting way to start a conversation. Because what does it matter? Remember when? And I've met people from home, years later, who accuse me of things, or who mention things. "Oh, I remember that time when you took your shoe off and threw it on the playground." They don't ever remember the fun things and the nice things you did, and there were nice things that I have done in my life when I was younger. They only remember what they want to remember. So beware of that phrase, "I remember when," because it can be a little bit dangerous because it starts taking you down a slippery slope when we have to deal with what's happening today. And it's definitely a way out of our today problems by going back to a time when things were nice and when life meant something and you were happier and innocent and money and mortgages and war and politics wasn't taking over every moment of your day. You can always choose a new pathway, go against your DNA, do something different, let go of your past. You don't have to be where you're from. You can always move forward and set a new path that is straight and right for you and you alone. And that is what nostalgia gives us, is that possibility of reconnecting what we once had. So nostalgia can lead us into a really good place if we don't get too tied up in wanting to go back and live where we used to live. It means something to live in the present. It means something to have purpose and being beyond the self. And for that, I thank you for joining me today on this live stream. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. If you have any questions, please find me here in chat or find me on Twitter at David Boles. Give me some feedback, give me some ideas, tell me what you'd like to chat about in the live stream, and I will definitely get back to you. And I thank you so much for sharing your day with me. Take care, and I will see you soon.